How much of the treasure on your own galleon actually belonged to you? Picture it. Seville, the year 1600. You have just put your name to the most valuable ship anyone in the world can own, a galleon of the Indies run. Its hold will carry silver by the ton, silver dug out of a mountain in Peru, stamped into coins, stacked in chests, floated across an entire ocean to the richest court on earth. Every man on the dock envies you. The ship is a fortune with sails. And here is the strange part, the part nobody on that dock will tell you. Of all the people who will grow rich from this ship, the king, the merchants, the bankers, the taxmen, even the sailors, the owner of the vessel is very often the one who ends up with the least. You are about to spend the next hour finding out why. Not the legend of the treasure fleet, the ledger of it. So keep one question in your head, because the whole thing turns on it. If the ship is yours, why isn't the treasure? Start with what you think you are buying, because that is where every owner goes wrong. You are buying into the Carrera de Indias, the Indies run, the most tightly organized shipping operation the world had ever seen. Twice a year, in a good year, a convoy leaves Spain for the New World and comes back loaded. One fleet goes to New Spain, to Veracruz, the other goes to the Isthmus, to Portobello, to collect the silver of Peru. And the coin that fleet carries is the peso de ocho, the piece of 8, the first true world currency, spent in Manila, in Antwerp, in the ports of the Ottoman coast. People trusted that coin on the far side of the planet because they trusted the mountain it came from, Potosi, a single peak in the Andes that at its height produced more silver than the rest of the world combined. So this is your fantasy, and it is a good one. You own the ship that carries the money of the world. You are imagining what your cut of a mountain of silver looks like. Hold that picture, because the contract you are about to sign with the Casa de Contratación, the House of Trade in Seville, the office that controls every plank and every peso of this run, has already decided how little of that mountain is ever going to be yours.
Now look at the ship itself, and forget everything you know about cargo ships. A galleon is not built to carry the most goods. It is built to survive being attacked while carrying goods worth killing for. That distinction is the whole business, and it is where your money starts to burn. Every gun you mount is weight. Every soldier you feed is a mouth that pays no freight. Every foot of deck given over to cannon and powder and marines is a foot that cannot hold a paying cargo. A plain merchant hull of the same size could carry far more and cost far less to run. But a plain merchant hull, alone, on that route, is a floating invitation to every raider and rival crown in the Atlantic. So you build a fortress instead. You pay for oak and iron and bronze. You pay shipwrights in Havana, where the tropical hardwoods are, or in the yards of northern Spain. And when the bill comes in, the price of a good armed galleon is the price of a small palace. Years of a rich man's income sunk into a single object that you are about to send into a hurricane belt. Pause on that. You have taken a fortune, turned it into a warship, and the warship's job is to protect a cargo that, as you're about to learn, was never yours to begin with. Here is the sentence that undoes most owners. The silver in your hold does not belong to you. It belongs to the merchants who consigned it and to the crown that rules it. You are not the treasurer's owner. You are its carrier. A freight contractor working a regulated route, paid a regulated rate to move other men's money from one side of the world to the other. And before anyone is paid at all, the king takes his cut off the top, the quinto real, the royal fifth. One coin in every 5, straight to the crown, before a single merchant, banker, or shipowner sees a peso. That fifth built palaces and paid for armies across a continent. It did not build your retirement. And think about the timing of your own money, because this is where the trap tightens. You pay to outfit the ship now. The crew, the guns, the food, the repairs, months before the fleet sails and a year or more before it comes home. Your capital goes out the door at the top of the voyage and does not come back until the very end, if it comes back at all. You are financing a fortune's journey out of your own pocket and waiting a year to find out whether you get paid. That is not the romance of the treasure fleet. That is working capital stretched to the snapping point on a route that specializes in snapping.
And now the part that should make you put the pen down. You were going to be taxed to pay for your own protection. Those guns, those soldiers, the warships that escort the convoy across the Atlantic, someone has to fund all of it. And the Crown's answer was elegant, in the way a noose is elegant. It was called the Averia, a levy charged on the trade itself to pay for the fleet that guarded the trade. The people being protected paid for the protection. You paid for the very cannon on your own deck and for the escort sailing beside you out of the value of the goods you carried. If the Averia had stayed small, you could have left with it. It did not stay small. As the route got more dangerous, as enemies multiplied and escorts grew, the levy climbed and climbed until in the worst years it could swallow a punishing share of a cargo's value before the cargo even reached market. Read that back slowly. The safer they tried to make your ship, the more expensive it became to sail it, and the bill landed on you. Protection became the single heaviest cost of doing business on the richest route in the world, and still you have not hit the thing that actually sinks owners. Because everything so far assumes the ship comes home. Let's talk about the calendar, because you do not untroll it, and that costs you more than any tax. You sail when the fleet sails, once a year, on the Crown's schedule, not yours. If the convoy is delayed, waiting for the silver train from Potosi, waiting for orders, waiting for a war to cool, your ship sits. And a galleon sitting in a tropical harbor is not resting, it is being eaten. There is a worm in those warm waters, the teredo, the shipworm, and it bores straight through a wooden hull like it is bread. You have to haul the ship over, scrape it, seal it, repair it, again and again, a fortune in maintenance just to keep the fortune afloat. Every month your ship waits, your capital sits idle, and your hull quietly rots. In business terms, your most expensive asset depreciates fastest exactly when it is earning you nothing. So notice the box you are standing in. You cannot sail early to beat the weather. You cannot sail late to dodge a raider. You go when the convoy goes, into the season the convoy happens to hit, carrying a year of the empire's silver on a route with one narrow window and one very famous hazard waiting at the end of it. And that hazard does not care how good your books are.
Here is the bet you actually made when you signed the contract. One night can take all of it. The fleets came home along the coast of Florida, up through the straits where the warm current runs, and straight into hurricane season. And every so often the sea simply collected the whole wager at once. In one such season, a homebound treasure fleet was caught by a hurricane off the Florida coast and torn apart, the better part of a dozen ships driven onto the shore and the shoals in a single night, thousands of lives lost, and a mountain of silver spilled into the shallows, where some of it still turns up on beaches to this day. Ships, cargo, crews, and every peso of capital their owners had sunk into the voyage, gone between dusk and dawn. Now sit inside that as the owner. There was no modern insurance policy waiting to make you whole. The risk of the sea was, in large part, your risk. One storm did not dent your year. It erased it. The ship you spent a small palace to build, the outfitting you financed for a year, the freight you were finally about to collect, all of it, at the bottom, off a coast you did not choose to sail past in a season you were not allowed to avoid. This is the true shape of owning a galleon. Not a steady fortune, a single, annual, all-or-nothing bet with the house rules written by the Crown and the dice thrown by the weather. So let's close the accounts. Put every entry on the table and look at it the way an owner has to at the end of the run. The mountain gave up its silver. The coin crossed the world. The merchants who owned the cargo were paid. The bankers who financed them were paid. The crown took its fifth off the top and its averia out of the middle. The escort was funded, the crew was fed, the taxmen closed their books. And the treasure, the actual treasure, the reason the whole machine existed, flowed through your hold, filled your ship stem to stern, and belonged at every single moment to somebody else. You provided the one thing without which none of it moves, the hull, the risk, the floating fortress that took the storm so the silver could reach Seville. And for that, you were paid a freight rate, minus the fifth you never touched, minus the tax on your own guns, minus a year of your money sitting still, minus, in the bad years, the entire ship. That is the answer to the question I left you with at the start. The ship was yours. The treasure never was. You did not own a fortune. You owned the liability that carried one. The treasure galleon made everyone rich. The king, the merchant, the banker, the beachcomber who finds a coin 3 centuries later. Everyone except the person whose name was on the ship. And once you see it that way, you stop envying the man on the dock in Seville. You start reading his contract. If sitting at this table changes how you see the past, if you would rather know what the treasure ship actually cost the man who owned it than hear the legend one more time, then pull up a chair and stay a while. The accounts here are always open, and there is always another ledger to turn to. Subscribe and take your seat at the table. This is Owning History, where history opens its account books.